How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer here. Wrestling Observer Radio. It is October 8, 2020. Figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. We got a lot of news to get into here today, including Raw from Monday night, where they actually did an angle. And that is, there is a new leader of Retribution. It is Ali, of all people, which in fact does play back into the storyline that he was the old hacker. I don't know if they'll follow up.
I don't know that plays into that story. I don't know if that plays into that storyline or not. I guess it could, but they didn't seem to touch on it yet. And the hacker was on SmackDown.
Well, what did you think of this show?
I thought it was reasonably entertaining until the last hour, and then it kind of just got too long. And I didn't, it's just like, it's pretty hard for a 3-hour show. And by the third hour, I wasn't that interested in it anymore. But first 2 hours were fine. Nothing spectacular. Lots and lots of talk. Very little wrestling. Watched G-1 first, so it's going to be pretty hard to watch Raw after G-1. It's probably not fair to anyone, but that's just life. I had to do it.
Well, you want to do Raw first, or you want to talk about the G1?
I guess we should talk about the G1 first. It was a lot better. Actually, maybe talk about the news first. So Lorriane Johnson passed away, who was the mother of Nicola Roberts, who was Baby Doll, and she was a big-time women's star in the 50s, especially the late 50s, with the tag team with Lorraine Johnson and Penny Banner, which was long, long before my time, but they were like considered the best women's tag team of that era, and probably, any era, until modern times anyway. They were definitely the most famous of the women tag team, and she married Nick Roberts, who was a wrestler out of Lubbock, Texas, lived in Lubbock, Texas. So she was a really good athlete, basketball player. I think she had an offer to go pro in basketball, but whatever that means in those days in 1952, you know what I mean? Or 1950 or whatever. It's probably not, pro basketball isn't exactly like it would be today, to say the least, especially for a woman. It was like they had a women's traveling, team, I guess kind of like the Globetrotters, but probably not nearly as popular. And so she ended up wanting to do sports. So she became a pro wrestler. She was part of the Billy Wolf stable. And, there's some clips of her that are still up, but it's from the early 50s. So it'd be when she first started. I haven't seen anything with her in, Penny Banner. And then, like 58, 57, everyone said, there's this other woman wrestler in the stable. And they worked in different tours. So they would be booked in different places, but, there's another woman wrestler in the stable named Penny Banner, and she looks like your younger sister. And she kept hearing about it, and then they were somewhere, probably Kansas City, and they met, and they were put in a tag team match, and then they were made world tag team champions. And they did that for a couple years, and everyone raved about them. And, the two blonde, pretty flying head scissors girls, that did moves that were in that era, that women didn't do. I just remember people saying that they were like as good as the men. They were, those two and June Byers were like the big three really good athletic women that were really good in the late 50s. And then, I guess after she got married, she moved to Lubbock. She quit wrestling. She did hang out at wrestling. I mean, in the sense that Nick ran the Lubbock shows every week, so she was there taking tickets. It's one of those family things, Nick Roberts, the promoter, was for the it was the Funks City, in the Amarillo territory. Lubbock was one of the weekly cities, and the kids, Nicola and everything, would help set up the chairs, and the brother worked in the concessions, and Nicola was an usher, Nicola Roberts. And Lorraine took tickets, so she did that. But she was real. I guess for the rest of her life, she was just never want to talk about wrestling. Penny Banner would want to bring her to Cauliflower Alley. She had no interest in going, from what I understand. But yeah, I mean, I remember when I first had heard of, about women's wrestling, and it was always Lorriane Johnson and Penny Banner were like great, and most of the other women were really not that good, except for June Byers, who was like the big star of that era. You know, this is after Mildred Burke, and then before I don't know, before Vivian Vachon, I guess, was like, when I was a kid, was like the one that everybody talked about as being like really good, but she never got a big push because of Moolah. And by then, Penny Banner was, I think, still around, but pretty much winding down. But Lorraine was done by 61, I'm going to say, when she settled down and just became a housewife and helped run the local wrestling business. But Nicola became, got started from there in the Dallas territory, and then became baby doll in Jim Crockett Promotions for a couple of years, and that was her main calling card, and she's been around wrestling ever since. So 90 years old.
All right, take us through this G1.
Okay, it's a pretty good show today. A block's always going to be good. There's just too much talent for it not to be. And a couple of matches. So anyway, it's opened with Yuya Uemura and Gabriel Kidd, and they had their usual solid match. It was shorter. They went their usual, like this was 7 minutes and 41 seconds roughly. And Uemura won with a Boston Crab. The match was in and out of Boston Crabs and bridges and everything. Just nice opener. Shingo Takagi and Yujiro Takahashi. So Shingo Takagi went to 3-2, right? No, 2-3. I keep messing up. Shingo Takagi went to 2-3, second win over Yujiro, who has not won a match yet in G1. And this had its moments of being good, and other moments were just kind of there. I mean, it wasn't like it was a bad match, but it was easily the weakest match on this show. It's just kind of, it was a match where a lot of it was fine, and then at certain points it was when Shingo was just really moving and hitting hard. He hit hard and moved, and he was really good, but it was not the whole match. And we had a ref being thrown down, like you need a ref bump in this match, knowing that you've got Jay White and Taichi upcoming, but we did, and it was kind of useless, and Takagi won with Made in Japan. Jeff Cobb and Jay White, and the first thing is Gedo grabbed Jeff Cobb's leg, which allowed Jay White to jump him from behind and put the boots to him. Cobb did a lot of cool stuff, overhead throw, suplexed him into the turnbuckle, spinning vertical suplex. Very good match. Just working in and out of trying to do Blade Runner and Tour of the Islands. And Gedo distracted at one point. Jay hit this nasty Cobra Clutch suplex, dropping Cobb right in his head. And the guy is like so heavy, it really was kind of scary. It wasn't really on his head, but it was a high angle suplex. It was a very scary looking suplex. And then he tried the Blade Runner. Cobb turned it into a twisting Oklahoma Stampede. Gedo came in again. Jeff Cobb pressed him, threw him onto Jay White, and then hit Tour of the Islands on Jay White and pinned Jay White. I don't think people expected that. I know I did not. So that was Jay White's second loss. It was Jeff Cobb's second win. So he's 2-3, and the other guy's 3-2. Then we had Okada and Suzuki, and these guys always have good matches. And this was probably on the Okada Suzuki scale. This would have been maybe the weakest match the two of them have had, because they've had unreal matches. Match of the year candidates. They had that one in the monsoon a couple of years ago that was just kind of incredible. And this was not as good as their match. They're indoors, but it was nowhere near as good as the match in the monsoon. Now, if there were two other people doing this match, I would say, it was pretty damn good, actually. And it ended up with Suzuki was, Suzuki went for a choke in the middle. Okada almost passed out. Okada got away, went for the Cobra Clutch. Suzuki escaped, got the choke, went for the Gotch pile driver, and Okada cradled him. The pin kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think people expected that cradle to be the three, but it's one of those things where it's good to do it because you want people to know that it's not going to be the Rainmaker or the Cobra Clutch, that Okada can win in other ways. Suzuki threw a big fit when it was over, not believing that he lost in that manner. So it was good. Ishii and Taichi was a great match, and maybe one of the best matches Taichi's ever had. Maybe the best he's ever had. I don't know. They just click. I guess Ishii clicks with everybody. But when you work with Ishii, you can't be lazy. So a lot of hard kicks, a lot of hard chops. They just beat each other up. Lots and lots of near falls, headbutts, Kawada kicks, high kicks, lariats, Saito suplex by Taichi. Ishii would pop up at certain points. Taichi even popped up at certain points from big moves. And Ishii hit they both powerbombed the other one. And Ishii hit a German suplex. Taichi popped up, but Ishii headbutted him right in the jaw. And then Ishii went crazy, started banging his own head into the turnbuckle pads. Taichi actually hit him with a axe bomber, which is a lariat, and went for the Saito suplex. Then he went for the hit the Saito suplex, went for Black Mephisto, and Ishii got out of it, and Ishii ended up hitting a lariat and a sliding lariat, and then got the brain buster and got the pin. And then main event was Will Ospreay and Kota Ibushi. And, it was really a great match, but it was not like they had a match at the Tokyo Dome that was a better match than this one. But, it was any other two guys again. Like, this actually would be considered a phenomenal match for almost anyone else. But for these two, it was, I guess, I don't know. Like when I saw this one, I thought, oh, this is going to be like match of the year. And it was not match of the year, but it was pretty great. And, all the big moves. Ospreay was using a Texas Cloverleaf. Ibushi made the ropes. Ibushi hit a nice drop kick. Ospreay used the phenomenal forearm out of the ring, in the ring. Space Flying Tiger drop by Ospreay. Ibushi went for so this was a key spot. Ibushi was standing on the top ropes and looks like he's going to do a double arm superplex. Will Ospreay blocked it and gave him like these Vader hammer shots, knocking him off the ropes. Ibushi then jumped onto the top rope for a Super Frankensteiner on Ospreay. Ospreay flipped, landed on his feet, and then kind of like did a momentary handstand to show off even more. And, then Ibushi made that face that he's shocked. And Ospreay used some Kawada kicks. Ibushi used kicks to the body and the head. And Ospreay used the dropkick enziguri combination. Ibushi hit a German suplex. He hit the Bamaye for a near fall. Missed Kamigoe. Ospreay with a hook kick. Spin kick, went for the Liger bomb, actually hit the Liger bomb. Ibushi blocked the Stormbreaker, I think, and then Ospreay went for Hidden Blade. Ibushi actually beat him to the punch with an elbow and hit a last ride power bomb for a near fall. Went for the Kamigoe. Ospreay cradled him. Ospreay super kicked him, went for the Stormbreaker. Ibushi out of the Stormbreaker, hits a big knee, and then the Kamigoe and got the pin. really, really quite good.
Well, we move from that to Monday Night Raw, which does not sound as good as any of these Ishii matches. And I have not seen this match yet, but I think I've seen every other Ishii match. And while I have not watched the entire G1, I do think that I have had more fun watching Ishii matches than anybody else's matches in this tournament this year. So,
well, he's been the most consistent. I mean, every match has been great. So, I mean, I would say that I would say Ishii and Taichi beat Ospreay and Ibushi for best match, which is a kind of a surprise, I guess. But they were close.
So Raw opens up with Randy Orton backstage, and he basically did the interview I figured he was going to do last week, where he just complained that all of these legends had ambushed him during this match, and so he had gotten his revenge. And he went on explaining what he had done to them in the dark last week. And finally, at the end, he challenged Randy or Drew to the Hell in a Cell match.
You know when he explained all the different things he did in the dark, you do realize that we were watching this on supposed live TV, and there was absolutely nowhere near enough time to do anything close to what he explained. Like he was talking about, this guy did this, and then this guy did this, and then I did this, and then this guy did this, and then Ric Flair tried to get out of the room. And it's like, dude, the whole thing was over in like seconds. And it was just bang, 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 and it was over. And now you're giving this explanation like it was like this 3-round, fight with these twists and turns.
I think this was clearly all of the voices in his head that were talking to him about all these things that happened. Because yes, this was a 10-second attack that he stretched out in explaining it to like a 15-minute violent beating.
Yes.
So he gets done talking, and then Drew storms in, and he beats the hell out of Randy, and everybody runs in to pull him apart, and Randy runs for his life, at least until the main event. We had Asuka, Mandy, and Dana versus Lana, Natty, and Zelina Vega, and
this was not a good match.
This was not a wrestling match. It was like a gymnastics exhibition, and not a very good one.
Is that what it was?
There
I didn't
were
even notice.
Rolls.
Dana Brooke did some gymnastics. I don't think Zelina Vega did any gymnastics, or Natalya or Lana, or I don't know. It was.
Well, how would you describe this? Because it was not professional wrestling.
I just thought it was. Asuka was trying to do a pro wrestling match, and
Asuka was in there for like 30 seconds doing a comeback.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It was just kind of there. It was just the only thing that left any memory to me when it was over is that, I don't know, man. It's almost like that they're like, it's every week is like, how can we humiliate Lana more? And
actually, it's not, because they just do the same thing every week. She got pinned here,
but it's almost like it's like a running gag.
Yes, Mandy pinned her with the pump knee, and then Nia and Shayna came out, and for the third straight week, they grabbed Lana and they put her through the announce table.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because they like teased that they weren't going to, and they did it anyway.
Well, no, they went after Natty, and then Lana saved Natty, and so they put Lana through the table. So Lana took a bullet for her friend, which I don't even know why.
That was nice of her.
It was very nice of her. I'm sure they're convincing her that, one of these days you guys are going to get a tag title shot, so we have to keep putting you through the table until we finally get to this tag title match.
Yeah. I take it that they didn't take that Rusev interview on Dynamite very well. I mean, I knew that they wouldn't, but I think they really didn't take that interview very well, because this is like, it's so WWE and it's so, so childish, but I guess in its own weird way, it's, just kind of like showing you, that's what it is.
Truth is backstage. He's doing a mock draft. There's a janitor there. He thinks it's Randy Orton. It is actually Drew Gulak. And he rolls up and pins Truth, so he is momentarily the champion again.
So R-Truth believes that Randy Orton was out there dressing or like made himself up to look like Drew Gulak as a disguise.
So backstage, Ali, Ricochet, and Apollo were all hanging out, and the Hurt Business shows up, and Ollie says, I'm sure you're here to give us some sort of excuse as to why you didn't win last week. And MVP says, no, you guys can win the occasional match, but you're not going to win this fight, which, by the way, it's abundantly clear. He says, the draft is upcoming. Your career can change just like that. Look at this Apollo. He was a jobber on SmackDown, but he got drafted to Raw and he became a champion. He says, for one night only tonight, I have an opening in the Hurt Business. It turns Cedric's life around. And
it turned his life around. He's a ghost.
Yes, it turned it all the way around. He's disappeared again.
Yeah,
I presume he'll be back soon, hopefully. But
I mean, if we didn't know any better, we'd think he was in catering every night.
Now, MVP did say, and apparently he knows more than Triple H. He says the draft is upcoming, and it doesn't matter where you end up, Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. Business is booming in the Hurt Business. So, according to MVP, NXT is going to be part of the draft.
He did say that. Do you think that they have no idea what they're doing right now?
I think that maybe they started figuring out what they were doing today. If you told me that, I would believe it.
I do think that they had an idea Friday. Because I mean, we'll find out, but I think some of those guys who lost on Friday are getting drafted. Tonight, it wasn't as obvious. Who got buried bad? I mean, I guess you could say Lana, but she gets buried bad every week anyway. So
yeah, but it's just like on SmackDown. I mean, I've seen John Morrison get beaten. I've seen Chad Gable get beaten quickly. I mean, I don't know if
those seemed like those seemed like leaving the territory beatings, and Jeff Hardy was suspicious because it was cleaner than I expected it would be, but so those looked like possibilities. Tonight, it was like...
Yeah, but if you draft John Morrison, that means Miz and Morrison are no longer going to be an act together because they're building up Miz and Otis for the briefcase on Friday. So, right. I mean, unless Miz is going to Raw and Otis, which makes the whole Mandy moving to Raw pointless, I mean, I don't even know why you would bother moving John Morrison.
You're trying to make sense?
Well, yeah, I would think they would too.
I think AJ might go. You know why? Because AJ wants to see his son's football games.
Well, AJ probably is going the other way. That one I can definitely see.
Yeah, I could see that. And but on this one, I mean, there really wasn't. I don't know. There wasn't so much wrestling. There was so much talking. You know. And okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so Bray Wyatt, Kevin Owens was okay to go on the SmackDown show. And Bray Wyatt was advertised on the Raw show. But Braun Strowman was not okay to be on Raw, even though he was on Raw tonight.
Well, Braun Strowman, as we'll get to, came to Raw to do Raw Underground. But there was no Raw Underground. And so he was told, you can't be on Raw unless I put you in an unsanctioned match. Now, yes, the whole thing is bullshit. But at least they did try to explain it. Now, why they would do things like this with a draft coming up Friday to make us care about a draft, I have no idea.
But why would, when we've had this quarterly blah, 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 over and over and over and over, now all of a sudden Braun Strowman comes over and it's not part of the quarterly whatever thing they do, and now he can't have a match, but he can still have a match anyway. So anyone can have a match at any time. They just have to say it's not sanctioned, and it doesn't count on your win-loss record. And nobody has win-loss records anyway. So what does that mean?
Well, I'm pretty sure when they do this draft, they'll say, now the rosters are finalized. There's no more switching back and forth.
Oh, yeah, like until
3
the next
weeks
time the
later, they're going to talk about how Survivor Series is the one time every year that these wrestlers from different brands can face each other.
Yeah, and then at the Royal Rumble, they'll face each other again.
Yes. So anyway, Rollins and Murphy come out for a promo, and this was a night of everybody giving each other deadlines. So Murphy wants Seth Rollins to apologize to Aaliyah, and Seth Rollins is like, I'm not apologizing to her. In fact, I could have revealed all of these DMs you guys share, the one where she tells the world her true feelings about her family, how she thinks Dom is the chosen one and her parents don't appreciate her. He says, listen, I'm the Messiah, you're the disciple. I want you to apologize to me. And he was given an ultimatum, actually later on. So first we have Dom and Humberto versus Murphy and Seth, and they're doing the match. Seth and Murphy can't get along. They argue the entire time.
And they still win.
Yep, finally Humberto wipes them both out with a dive, comes off the top, Murphy kills him with a V-trigger, gets the pin. Murphy walks out on Seth, and that led to the segment where Seth told him that he has until 10 p.m. to apologize, or there will be hell to pay.
So, since they broke up, does this breakup count, or are they going to be back together as a tag team again next week?
Let me tell you something. We'll get to that in a second. I'll get to their breakup here in a minute. First, we had Adam Pearce on the phone, and Braun Strowman comes up, and this was everything we talked about, except the best part of it is, Adam Pearce says, "You're a SmackDown talent. This is Raw. I cannot give you an official match, but I can give you an exhibition." And Braun Strowman says, "What's that?" I'm like, this dude doesn't know what an exhibition match is.
I mean, the whole idea came from that frickin' Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier thing. It's a way to do a match while not being part of your contract, I guess. I don't know. And then later they called it an unsanctioned match, which I guess means...
Pierce has to explain to him what an exhibition match is, and his explanation is it's an unsanctioned match.
Okay, so that should be a lights out match.
Well, we don't actually know what the hell the match was because they threw it out immediately.
But they didn't turn the lights out, so it wasn't a lights out match.
It was unsanctioned, not lights out. Just meant that no matter what happened,
they had a referee there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
We have Kevin Owens in the ring for the KO show, and he wants the Fiend to come out. We get a Firefly Funhouse instead, and Bray's singing a song. Kevin is appalled. Bray wants to be friends. Kevin says we're not friends. And anyway, apparently on SmackDown, they're going to have a match together. And I was impressed that they shot an angle for SmackDown on Raw. I mean, usually we have no idea what's on SmackDown until the day before the show. And then Kevin says, "If you're not coming to me..."
This week they've loaded the whole show up because they're looking for big ratings next week from the draft show. So they really want to load things up and shoot angles and maybe it's like some one and dones also. As far as like people doing a match and then they're going to switch brands that so they have to blow off the feud in next week.
You're talking about Bayley and Sasha.
I hope I'm not talking about Bayley and Sasha, because if I'm talking about Bayley and Sasha, then I will say that they're out of their minds. But I don't know.
The theory is that one of them gets drafted to Raw. It would be, I guess, Sasha.
Okay.
And then in order to get her revenge, she must win the Royal Rumble, and then she can choose to face Bayley at WrestleMania. That's how you hold it off until then. Now,
if that was the case, then they should have done their breakup in like December.
Well, the bigger issue is, dude, all I see is people going from brand to brand. You're going to try and tell me that like everybody can go brand to brand except Sasha Banks up until she wins the Royal Rumble. Like it doesn't. If you're going to do that storyline, you got to actually adhere to your brand stipulation.
Who knows if they're going to do anything? I can't imagine them doing that breakup and then not doing the match on pay-per-view and not doing a series of matches on pay-per-view. That is, why did they do the breakup? Why did you waste that breakup? To do no matches? That is like so ridiculous. I mean, I guess it helped ratings for a couple of weeks, but Bayley and Sasha Banks was one of the hottest acts. It wasn't even one of the hottest acts. It was the hottest act they had.
It was the hottest act on like 3 shows.
Yeah. And the only reason to break it up was because if you're going to have like a really hot feud between the two of them, so you break them up and then you do a one television match feud, they better not be on different brands by the end of by next week. That would be, I mean, I know it's certainly possible, but boy, would that be like, it would make everything make no sense. I mean, why even do the breakup if you're going to do that? That is like just so ridiculous. I know the way they did the breakup because that was always the plan, was to do the breakup, and they kept moving it back and kept moving it back. But it's like, because they were so good together, so they kept kind of moving it back. So you wait until, so they better not do that. That would be insane, but it's possible.
So Charlie's with Drew, and he accepts the match for Hell in a Cell and vows to send him straight to hell. Oh, by the way, when the Braun Strowman segment ended, Keith Lee walked up and basically asked for the match. So, in fact, it is Braun Strowman versus Keith Lee. They wrestle like a minute. Braun Strowman gives him a terrible drop kick. They brawl outside. The referee announces they have been counted out of an unsanctioned match.
Double count out in a minute. That was really good. But they did do a good brawl afterwards.
They do this brawl. Strowman spears him through the barricade. Lee attacks him afterwards. Everybody runs down to break it up, and then Lee throws him into the lighting rig, tackles him off the stage. They both crash through these tables onto a crash pad, and I don't know what this means. They're on separate brands. Maybe one of them's getting drafted to the other show. May as well move Keith Lee. I mean, he ain't doing anything on Raw, so they could continue their feud on SmackDown.
Yeah, but what can they do in the feud? Because they're afraid to beat either of them.
Well, it's very interesting, by the way, that there was no Raw Underground for the second straight week, but this week they acknowledged that there was no Raw Underground tonight. So it sounds like Raw Underground is not dead, but maybe Shane McMahon has been unavailable for 2 weeks.
That's very possible. Though lots of guys are unavailable.
Guess we'll see what happens.
I don't know that you need Raw Underground, to say the least. I didn't miss it at all.
This week we have Bianca Belair beating women at trivia. This was not as good as when she's destroying men doing physical feats. I will say that.
It was pretty goofy, actually. It was kind of fun in a way, but it was pretty goofy, too.
Drew Gulak is backstage. Truth sneaks up. Drew trips over a garbage can. Tozawa falls out of the garbage can. Gulak gets backdropped into a dumpster. Truth and Tozawa jump in there. The ref randomly just counts to 3 and announces that Truth is the new champion, so he retains his belt.
He wins it back. That was winning it back.
Winning it back, yes. He regains his belt. Hurt Business in the ring, and MVP's doing this promo, and in fact, he calls him Teabag, and he says, you and your squad are going to learn you can wear your Halloween masks, but we are what nightmares are made of. So Ricochet, Cruz, and Ali come out, make fun of Hurt Business. Ricochet grabs the mic and acts like he's going to join, but then says he's just joking. It's a pass. MVP tells him you've made a big mistake, and he tells Hurt Business to give Ricochet an extra beating tonight, which they did. It is Apollo and Ricochet versus Benjamin and Lashley. They beat the hell out of Ricochet forever. Apollo gets hot tag. He runs wild, gets cut off. Lashley puts him in the full Lashley for the submission. The show is Groundhog Day. I've been watching the Hurt Business defeat Apollo Crews and Ricochet for months now, and it just keeps going.
But every fifth week, the babyfaces win.
That is not enough to make me care about this feud for the fourth straight month.
Oh, man, it's like brutal. It was brutal. It goes nowhere. It's like you're running in circles. They are a dog chasing its tail. That's what that feud is.
Murphy finds Aaliyah backstage. This was some very low-level acting. I have been waiting to talk to you all night. He says, I want to apologize. It's out of hand. It's not your fault, Murphy. It's not me you need to be worried about. It's Seth. Are you still considering apologizing to him? And he says, I don't know, and he walks off. Hurt Business laughing backstage. Ali walks up by himself. He challenges MVP, says, bring your goons so I can finish them off afterwards as well. They find this to be very funny. Seth then comes out. He demands his apology from Murphy. Murphy just stands there. Seth gets violent with him. He's pushing him, shoving him, demanding he apologize. Finally, Murphy double legs him and attacks him. They have this brawl. Murphy gets the kendo stick. He starts beating him to death, demands he apologize. Seth says, I'm sorry. Murphy says, not to me. You need to apologize to Aaliyah. And Seth says, okay, I apologize. I didn't mean to bring her into this. Please stop. So Murphy stops like an idiot. Seth jumps him. He goes for the eyeball, starts beating the hell out of him with the stick, breaks the stick. Seth goes outside to get a chair, but Aaliyah runs down. She covers Murphy. The whole Mysterio family runs down. They start asking her what she's doing. Seth leaves. We get the awkward silence, and the Mysterio family leaves, and poor Murphy is just laying there, beaten in the middle of the ring. And that's the end of that segment. I believe they're broken up for real this time. But it is very hard for me to care since they've broken up like 3 times so far.
I believe that many times, and they still end up back together. Actually, I think that like this is probably some of the best stuff on the whole show, though. As far as it's just something, it's like a week-to-week storyline. That's at least like advances every week, as opposed to
it is a week-to-week storyline that is advancing, as opposed to the Hurt Business storyline, which is very, very stagnant. Right. They just keep doing the same thing every week. Which goes
around in circle, and Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, which is like, that's been months too. It just keeps going and going and going, and it doesn't really change. But this one, it's like they're going somewhere with Murphy and Aaliyah. We don't know exactly where. Every week is different. The family is going to, I don't know how they're going to react now that we've had the latest change. Who knows what's happening with Dominic? Dominic and Aaliyah, weren't getting along, and that's that.
Wait, Shane and Nia versus...
That actually reminds me of something on Being the Elite when Luchasaurus was trying to hit on Ty Conti at the bar. And by the way, Marco is now a bartender. I don't know if you know that or not, but he's now a bartender. But anyway, Anna Jay comes up and she starts yelling at Luchasaurus to start dating women his own age and stop picking up on younger girls. So there you go.
Well, he's 65 million years old.
We think that, except he didn't have his ID on him, and Marco wasn't even wanting to serve him drinks without his ID.
Wow!
Because he didn't know if he was of age.
I think he's definitely of age, would be my guess. I'm not sure where he's going to find 65 million-year-old women, but that's another story.
I know. That's what Anna Jay wanted him to find. Anna Jay was just like, start hitting on women your own age.
So Shayna and Nia faced the Riot Squad for the tag team titles, and this was way longer than it needed to be.
This was a really one-sided match.
They destroyed Liv forever, and then...
They destroyed both of them forever.
Ruby tagged in. They killed her forever. And then finally, at the end, Nia hits the ring. Ruby takes her out. Shayna hits a running knee, puts Ruby in the choke. Liv tries to make the save. Nia cuts her off. Ruby taps out. Shayna won't let go of the hold, so the referee and Liv have to pull her off. And that was that. So, we retain their titles.
As one-sided as the build-up was, so was the match. So, like that, everything that was... This is probably the match that was going to be on the Clash. It's like, they promised you on the Clash a bunch of one-sided matches. Well, they did have 3 good matches on the show, but mostly one-sided matches. And in fact, they gave you exactly what you expected. A bunch of one-sided matches.
Well, hey, maybe they've turned a corner. They're going to give us what they promised.
They didn't promise. You would think that, there's, going to be something going on in one of these matches.
No, not the way they built it up, they didn't.
Yeah.
They delivered what was promised.
Boy, did they make these baby faces look terrible, though.
Yes. That's what they do. They have a very difficult time making baby faces not look terrible and or stupid.
Yeah.
MVP Mustafa Ali. So MVP's beating him up for a while, then he calls Lashley and Shelton into the ring. Lights flicker, Retribution appears on the screen, they hit ringside. MVP says, Ali, come on, help us out here. So Ali joins him to square off, but then he bails. Mace and T-Bar are on the ramp. Ali gets in their face. Hurt Business thinks this guy's the biggest idiot. But then Ali turns around and smiles and says, get him! And Retribution destroys the Hurt Business. Ali is the leader of Retribution, which is good. The guy can talk. They've got him in a position now. He can't just disappear to main event.
So he's gonna have to be a player now. He's going to have to be a guy because he's the leader of the group.
So,
but that means we're going to start seeing these guys in 6-man tag team matches.
Dude, I am so fine with Hurt Business versus Retribution because I'm sick of seeing him against Ricochet and Apollo Crews.
Yeah, 4 months of this, you're not going to be so happy with it.
Well, we also have to figure out who's who. Are Retribution supposed to be baby faces now? Are Hurt Business baby faces? Are we going to be watching 4 months of a heel versus heel program?
Yes. Unless people get drafted.
All of the above?
No, wait, no. Here's the thing, though. Okay.
What if T-Bar goes to SmackDown and Mace stays on Raw?
Yeah, what if Retribution gets, broken up in the draft? I know they won't, but what if?
Well, Dave, if this
They didn't
company...
even like bring this up as a possibility. Like they got a draft Friday, and they don't even go in there and goes, "We've got a draft on Friday." You know, like these partners, like the Hurt business, they could be broken up, or they don't even tell you stuff like this. Or
well, I don't think they tell us because like 90% of the time, teams get drafted together. And occasionally a team will randomly be split up in the draft. But and then there's also the whole thing where Retribution's whole gimmick is they're destroying Raw. What the fuck sense would it make for SmackDown to draft them?
I don't know. But then, we don't know if Kevin Owens will be ever on the show again. We don't know if Seth Rollins will be on the show again. We don't know if Dominic Mysterio will be on the show again. We don't know if Drew McIntyre will get drafted. We don't know any of this. Tune in Friday. Find out what's going to happen.
We don't know if this brand-to-brand invitational is going to continue after the draft.
Yeah, we do.
What happened with people that got drafted and they were like the other side got, what was that the term that they use where
a player to be named later?
Future consideration or whatever.
Future considerations, yeah.
That never played out. Does Raw get 3 picks for every 2 SmackDown picks again?
Yes, probably.
Wow.
We've had 2 years of drafts, and it's been that case in both years. So I would say, Raw gets 3, SmackDown 2, because Raw's 3 hours and SmackDown's 2 hours. It's absolutely stupid, but yes, we're going to move a bunch of guys around, whatever. So can Raw Underground get drafted?
Well, Raw Underground seems to be anybody can go there. Raw, SmackDown, NXT. There's no need to draft anybody there.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I don't whatever.
Drew and the Street Profits versus Randy Ziggler and Bobby Roode. The one match that was announced in advance here today was this one. And Dawkins got a blind tag. Ziggler hit him with the DDT. Orton hit the draping DDT, went for the RKO, but Dawkins hit him with the spine buster. Montez hits Randy with the frog splash, but Ziggler and Roode break it up. Everybody hits a big move. Drew hits a big Claymore, and Randy flies in with the RKO on Drew. Pins Drew McIntyre, which I think is the first time Drew McIntyre's been pinned since he won the title.
It is.
And that's your build for Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm.
Main event was fine. I enjoyed the main event.
That's fine. Yeah. Nothing special, but it was fine.
And that was a Raw show, everybody. So next show's the draft. We got SmackDown draft and a Raw draft, so we'll see who goes where.
They didn't build the draft up for shit.
No, they did not.
Yeah. They just assume it's going to do great ratings. And it probably, the ratings will probably be up. I'm sure the Raw rating will be up from this week. SmackDown will probably be up too. Yeah.
So for NXT, the only thing we know is TakeOver Fallout. I'm sure we'll probably get an update on Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor. Their
we'll get
medical situations.
We'll get a worked update. Maybe we'll get a real it's possible we'll get a real update.
Well, based on their faces, their swelling, and the blood, I'm pretty sure we should be able to get a pretty realistic medical update on these guys. So I guess we'll see. And then for AEW, we got Jericho and Hager.
Whoa. If there's a concussion, you think we're going to get a realistic update on him?
I don't think they will announce a concussion, but if Finn Balor's jaw's broken, I do believe they'll say that his jaw.
I do believe that if his jaw actually is broken, they will say that. Yes. Does that mean he may have to vacate the title? Probably not.
Depends on how long it takes a broken jaw to heal. So if you're Drew McIntyre,
you're back in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yes.
We just had a fake broken jaw, so now this guy with a real broken jaw is going to come off looking like a total pussy because he ain't going to be back in a week like Drew McIntyre was, if he does have a broken jaw.
So for AEW, we got Jericho and Hager versus Serpentico and Luther. This is the Chris Jericho 30th anniversary show, so in fact he is in there with Luther.
Did you see the promo for this?
I sure did. It was great.
It really was. It was really, he talked about in his early career that he wrestled Luther in 1991, and he explained that at that point in time, Luther was a much bigger star than he was, and he went to Japan, and Luther was this big star, and then Luther was this giant star in the Indies, which I don't know about that, but Luther was a star in FMW with Hayabusa. I remember I was at a show where Luther and Hayabusa had a match, and this is when Hayabusa was, before he was Hayabusa, was E.G. Izaki, and they had a really good match, and that was kind of like that match was kind of like the deal of like, wow, he can carry, E.G. Izaki at the point was just like a young boy rookie, but Luther did a really good job carrying him. And Luther, Lenny Olson was a really good worker back then. I don't know what he's got now. I mean, I guess we'll find out. But, he was in Japan. He was, without a doubt, a bigger star than Jericho when he was doing that crazy Dr. Luther gimmick.
We got Will Hobbs versus Brian Cage. Cody versus Mr. Brody Lee in a dog collar match for the TNT title. And FTR versus Jack and Angelico. Okay,
so it's 3 championship matches because the FTW championship is the Brian Cage and Will Hobbs is the FTW title. And then the other one is going to be the tag team title with a 20-minute time limit. So it's, they're going against a vice presidential debate. I mean, they've been pretty solid with numbers. They've got a real loyal fan base right now. So they may not get hit that hard, but like I said, man, I wouldn't even worry about the rating on Wednesday. It doesn't matter. If it's terrible, it's fine. If it's good, I guess it's better than fine, but that's pretty heavy. That Wednesday that's pretty heavy competition.
All right, take us through this BTE.
Oh, let me see. There were a few cute things in the BTE. I guess one of the things was they did a thing where Matt Sydal saw Colt Cabana, who's now, they play Colt Cabana's voice while Michael Nakazawa was there talking. And Matt Sydal, of course, believes that it's Michael Nakazawa and he wants to kill him. And Colt Cabana is saying, it's me, I'm your friend. And then Sydal goes, well, tell me something that Colt Cabana would know, when he talks about like them traveling together and all these things. And Matt Sydal's all happy. It is Colt Cabana. And he just goes, I had a botched surgery. And then Michael Nakazawa comes and Matt Sydal thinks he's still Colt Cabana, but he's not. And he is going, I guess that Michael Nakazawa's underwear is called Mr. Socko. I get, after Mick Foley. So WWE must have forgotten to trademark it or something, or they're going to get cease and desist tomorrow. And, he promised to make him smell his balls and smell his ass. It was pretty bad. And John Silver and Alan Angels are trying to recruit Sammy Guevara. And the whole gimmick here is that Sammy Guevara is cool and he's talking all this jive, but John Silver is able to do that. But Alan Angels is like super uncool, and John Silver keeps yelling at him for blowing the deal. And in the end, he's out there trying to recruit him, and Alan Angels was just like being completely uncool. And then Sammy just goes to John Silver, you're cool as fuck, but you're hanging out with a loser. And so the answer is no. But if he wasn't here, I probably would have said yes. So then Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy are at the bar. Ty Conti is there. Marco's the bartender because the other 2 bartenders are gone. And Luchasaurus was trying to get her to join Jurassic Express. And she was all excited about joining Jurassic Express. She thought this was like this great compliment. And that's when Anna Jay showed up. And so the deal is that Ty Conti is friends with Anna Jay. And Anna Jay called Luchasaurus Grandpa and told him to hit on someone your own age. So that was that. And then they put Nick Jackson's voice in the skit. So we never see Nick Jackson, but him and Matt are having this discussion. And then Brandon Cutler got them this BTE World Championship belt, which I guess is going to be a comedic version of the 24/7 title because it can be defended in any type of situation on BTE. And who was... they were talking about, they made some deal about Twitch that was just kind of there. And what else? Preston Vance is bench pressing, and John Silver's just going crazy. He's got 3 plates on, but he was doing it far too easy, so it was not 315 pounds. And Silver's going crazy about Preston Vance's chest pump and said that he could get milk from it. And then Brody Lee showed up and just thinks that he's like a complete weirdo. And then Anna Jay ends up bench pressing it. And anyway, that was that. Then Adam Page was trying to tell Brandon Cutler that the Young Bucks are not good guys, that you're just a prop to them. You film BTE, you do very complex editing for them. And then every time you do something, they tell you like, what great stuff that we look at what we've done for Brandon. But when the same thing comes, when, if you're going to be the star of a segment, you're going to find out that they will not be there for you. And he goes, I know this. And then Brandon believes that if he asks them to be seconds in one of his matches, they will do it. And Adam Page is just like, not going to happen. They're going to say no. And that was that.
All right, let's jump into the mailbag here. Mailbag at WrestlingObserver.com. This person wants to know if steroid use among Japanese wrestlers was common in the 80s and 90s.
Pretty common, yeah. Yeah, it's just like here. Yeah, not as much as here. And there was a stigma to some, but it absolutely was there, yes. Yes.
This person says, I'm watching 1985 World Championship Wrestling. I'm surprised Billy Jack Haynes wasn't a bigger star. I've read he had backstage problems in both WWF and WCW. Could Dave tell us why he didn't set the world on fire?
He wasn't that good. That's the simple answer. He had a good body, good size, but then it's like in a place like Portland, he was great because, he was working with experienced guys and the standard was a certain standard. It wasn't as high a standard. When you go in some place and you got Ric Flair and these guys, when the babyface isn't that good of a worker, when you got all those babyfaces that can go, you could see he wasn't at that level. So, Vince, I think, would have pushed him pretty hard, but he walked out on Vince a couple of times. And then in WCW, it was just, they really wanted action, and he just wasn't that good. That's the deal. He caused all. I don't say he caused problems, but he certainly had his issues.
This person here says, can you go into the history of this Lyle Alzado Learning the Ropes TV show that was centered on NWA wrestling?
It was just a TV show. Jim Crockett and I guess some syndicator came with this idea of this TV show where Lyle Alzado played I think he was a school teacher who, moonlit as a masked wrestler to hide his identity, which is actually what George Steele did in real life when he was a school teacher in Detroit. He would wear a mask, and he was called the Student, so nobody knew who he was when he worked in the Detroit territory. And then when he left and went in other territories, then he could be George Steele. But he was not, he was rare. He was at times George Steele later in Detroit while he was coaching. But by then, I guess it was, he was a little bit better known, and I guess it was okay. But, so there was it was syndicated. I don't remember how many episodes they did. But Gary Sabaw, the Italian Stallion, was the guy who was under the mask doing the actual wrestling. It was not Lyle Alzado working with these different Crockett guys. The idea was like, it's, this regular TV show, and it's going to, give the NWA like this, mainstream something or other. But the show was very predictable. It was not a particularly good show. Every episode, as I remember, sort of came off like it was the same. Something happened, and he ends up in the ring with some dudes, and that was that. But it didn't, I think it only lasted one season.
This person here wants to know if you think that RVD might be WWE bound or maybe AEW. I would not rule it out, but I would not expect it either. I don't see where he
I don't see where AEW needs him, and WWE, I don't see where he would fit in either. He didn't look that good in Impact. I mean, I just don't see it.
This person here says, why do you think we've never seen a similar level of steroid-related deaths amongst professional bodybuilders as we have amongst pro wrestlers?
Bodybuilders die. I mean, it wasn't like they were dropping dead left and right, but bodybuilders were definitely dying, on the circuit. And then a lot of them died young as well, from various different health reasons. But they didn't get as much publicity because they weren't as big as stars. But there was several name bodybuilders were dying back then. And they probably, I don't know how they're doing now. Obviously it's around, and steroid use and all that. But yeah, no.
Well, the other thing too is when you talk about the under 40 wrestling deaths, I mean, yes, a lot of them were on steroids. A lot of them had the enlarged hearts, but a lot of them were also doing a lot of drugs and a lot of hard drugs. And I'm not saying that the bodybuilders didn't, but I mean,
bodybuilders did too.
There was a lot of that in pro wrestling.
Yeah. Well, you had to travel and everything like that, and you're beating yourself up. A lot of the bodybuilders got hooked on painkillers as well. I remember that, back in that era, there was a lot of painkiller use among the bodybuilders and a lot of recreational drug use among some of the bodybuilders. But they were absolutely, if you look back at the bodybuilders from, even like 25, 30 years ago, a lot of them died young. It was not unusual at all. It's kind of a sad thing, actually.
This person here says, how are the WWE writing teams currently structured? Are they at all separated by show?
I mean, there's a Raw team and a SmackDown team, so they are separated by show, but they obviously at certain points have to know what the other one's doing to a degree. They're more separated now than they've been in the past, though. So yeah.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. The new back issue of The Observer should be up on the front page, if it's not already, very soon. Thursday, New Observer's out on the front page as well. We got a bunch of radio shows, tons of shows up from this past weekend, so head up there and check those out. And that's it. We'll talk to you again after a while.